Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of MovieCast. I am your host, Dana, and I'm joined by Mr. Danny Martinez. We will be talking about the greatest cartoon that's ever been cartooned. That's my opinion alone, and that's even still inaccurate. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. How are you doing, Mr. Danny Martinez? And what are your thoughts?
I got good and bad things to say about it. Also, how dare you wear Batman when we're talking about
I have a Spider-Man hat. I
Spider-Man?
didn't think to change the hat because I do have a Spider-Man hat. But I am too lazy, and we were recording multiple shows a day, and I just got out of a press conference, so I wasn't thinking. But yeah, I
Oh,
am wearing a Batman because somewhere in this multiverse, Batman and Spider-Man are best friends,
they're best friends. They're besties.
besties. Well, no mesties, whatever that means. But that'll be, that's time for another show. Maybe one day DC and Marvel can be like, hey, we love each other.
At
We love
least
the
one
fans.
movie.
Give them
Just one
everything.
movie, at least.
Just one movie. That'll be amazing. But yeah, we're here to talk about the very first two episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I will kind of give context to the series overall because I was privileged to see the entire season, which I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I thought it was a mistake. And then I realized, oh, they must really have a lot of faith in this show because usually we'll get maybe 4 to 6 episodes. To give us an entire season is incredible. That's amazing. I'm all for it. I don't even think we got the entire season when it came to X Men '97. So I'm all
Mm.
here for it. So, Ian, what were your initial thoughts, your overall thoughts on the first two episodes of Spider-Man, well, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is not the same Spider-Man as the other Spider-Man. This is from a
Not Tom Holland.
not Tom Holland, not even Toby, not even any of the other ones. This is a completely different Spider-Man in an alternate universe where everything happened in 616, just without Peter Parker. So, yeah, try explaining that one. Because I'm like, why are we talking about the Accords? And why are they fighting in Civil War? So everything that happened just in general happened there, but not Peter.
So
Thoughts?
he's pretty much just now turning into Spider-Man in the first episode, even though everything has already happened. My first initial impression of the show. So I saw the trailers throughout, and I was really pleasantly surprised about the art style. I like the art style. I like the comic bookish type look to it. My problem with the show is I don't. There's a difference between the art style and the animation. I don't like the animation. The animation is very like stop motiony, almost like you're going like the frames per second is just like a whole lot slower. It's almost like you're watching lag in a video game. I don't like it. I think it's jarring to me. It's actually distracting to me, is what I should say. It's distracting. But the art style itself, I really, really, really like. I like this old school look of the comic book stuff. It's just I really don't like the animation. And then aside from that, people are gonna hate me for this. Um, I don't like the voice of Spider-Man. I really don't like the voice of Spider-Man.
Is it too
And
woke for you?
so yeah, that's another thing that we should talk about, honestly. And I don't have a problem with it, by the way. But that is a problem a lot of people are having. But we should talk about that. His voice, his acting is fine. His acting is fine. His voice does not. It does not fit Peter Parker. When he's Spider Man, for some reason, I feel more acceptable of that. But when he's Peter Parker, his voice just does not match with his character, his design. It, he's it I can't. It bothers me a lot on this show. His voice because it just doesn't fit him. It doesn't fit the way he looks. So it
What?
bothers me a lot. So those are my initial impressions. I will say though, I am enjoying the story. I am enjoying the content. So I will still be watching this show because I want to see where it's going.
Wow. I did
Yeah,
not expect that
that's a lot.
because I didn't have any problem with his voice. And I
Mhm.
liked both him as Peter and as Spider-Man, which makes it so more hard because the actor is just horrible. But I liked his whole everything. I liked how these are, there's not for me. It's not really two distinctive voices. It's just that it feels like two different kind of not even personalities. It just feels different from each other. It feels relatable, like they're related, but they're not. And I kind of like that. And I like the costume because, in the very beginning, it gets that very home feeling. This is something that a kid crafted together. He learned how to sew. And, here's anything material that I can find. Here's some old sweater, or maybe this was a jacket from something. And he placed it all together so it looks very homemade. It reminded me of the Tom Holland version when we get at the very end, where he's like just sitting there making his own costume because, no one knows who he is. Tony Stark is dead, so he's not going to be like, hey, kid, here's a costume. And he has to do everything by hand. So for me, I kind of like that. I like the cartoon style because it reminds me of an actual comic book. You
Mhm.
open up the pages, and this is what you would see. And, they explain the different characters and how they look. It looks like a comic book for me. So I was just very surprised that you did not like the actor. You didn't like the frame rate. You didn't like anything about this. You
I,
can't
I
even
I'll
stand
also
Spider-Man
say
himself.
I do like the home look of the homey like makeshift look of Spider-Man's design. I don't like the cables, the cables that come out. Like I get it, you're trying to be different, and I assume that's where like his webbing stuff is coming from, and then it comes out of his wrist and stuff. But I think as a very smart person, I would not expose my only means of transportation and defense to be out dangling cables like out there like that. Like I would put it under my shirt or whatever it might be. So I think the cable thing is kind of weird, weird decision.
I understand that, but also at the same time, I'm kind of thinking that he doesn't have any money. So this isn't like, an Osborn version of Spider-Man where we're going to take our $1 million and think of things as just hiding cable cords. To me, it just seems like to be most practical because if, for example, you did hide the cord, but what if something gets caught in the cord and he doesn't have that movement and flexibility to be able to fly around the city because everything is kind of hidden or it gets caught up or the environment or elements kind of change and it jams the system. So that's just the only reason why I thought it was yes, you expose and you're showing people things, but it happens so fast that it's just kind of okay for me. And he still has that kind of kid mentality. And then on top of that, he's broke. They are broke. They're not as broke as Ceylani, but they are broke.
Yeah.
So I could just kind of like that
Oh, I
aspect
get,
of
I
things.
get the,
And
I get the
yeah.
funds thing. I get, yeah, I get that part. I just think, like, as a smart kid, he would have thought a little bit more about just the technical part of it, or like the practical part of
Mhm.
it. Um, I would assume throughout the show, as we watch, something might happen, and these villains, like, cut the cable, or he gets tangled up or something, and he maybe learns from it, and like slowly we see him develop his suit a little bit better into more of the classic Spider-Man that we're used to.
I'm not allowed to say anything, but I will say that
Nah.
this is not obviously the final phase of
Yeah.
Spider-Man, and
I mean,
that
they
goes
already
to like
renewed
all of the
season
Spider-Man.
3, didn't they? And
Yeah,
they're not
they're
even in
renewed
season
because
2 yet.
that's okay because right now the writers didn't do anything controversial. They all
Hmm.
have their clothes on, they're covering the nibbly bits, and they haven't harassed anybody. So I'm all for this. Give them 5 seasons. So
Hmm.
you can do that when you're not acting a whole fool. And they know exactly. To me, it felt like a show where they know where they're going.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for that. And it was slightly confusing at first because you right away you're kind of introduced to regular Spider-Man. Sorry, Peter Parker. You're introduced to that version. He's just a kid. He's missing the bus. People didn't. I did like that aspect of it where it seemed very relatable. Aunt May is there. I'll drive you to school. She's seems to be very supportive. Things are going on, and we don't have one of the things that stood out to me. so happy. And I think Kevin Feige kind of explained this multiple times because he's been dealing with Spider-Man since a very long time. I don't know if he was involved in the original with the one with Toby, but I do know that
No.
he's kind of been involved in things. No, he was not. Because I do know that he was in different studios. Point that I'm simply making is I like the fact that we already know the origin story, so we do not need to go back with the origin story. And even then, they changed the origin story. This
Yeah.
wasn't like, a kid in the lab and here's some spiders and then they bit me. Doctor Strange comes through. Right away, we have a destruction of the city. So I'm like, yay. He comes through. He's fighting a villain. A spider somehow drops down. He's bitten by, say, a multiverse Spider-Man. And then we smash cut to months later, and he knows his powers. We don't have to sit through a training montage. We don't have to sit through a what are these powers? Oh my God, it's webbing. We don't have to sit through that. So I'm kind of very grateful for that aspect. And then it kind of just jumps into the story of Peter trying to balance his life as Spider Man. And all the friends, he's not being bullied because he's the nerd. They celebrate him. Like, yay, look at him. So, what were your thoughts on kind of the complete changes in the origin story?
I thought it was very good. It's very interesting. It got me a little bit of the vibe of the origin story of Miles Morales in that Spider-Man movie that he did, where like the spider was from another multiverse. So in this case, it's kind of the same concept. So Doctor Strange is fighting. What was it? What was he fighting? A symbiote?
Yes.
What was he fighting? I can't remember now.
I can't remember.
Well, he was fighting
But it
something.
was a creature.
It's
It was
irrelevant.
a
Yeah,
creature.
he was fighting a creature, and the spider comes out of a portal, and then drops on onto Peter. So I thought that was a really cool change into things, and I'm wondering where that's gonna lead to. Like, where did the spider come from? Is he gonna have the same powers? Is he gonna be like amalgamation of Miles and Spider-Man? Who knows? But or maybe you know. But I thought it's nice because what happens is that people will get bored of watching the same thing happen over and over and over again. So if you know that these very minute changes have happened throughout the show, it'll still keep you on your toes of wondering like what's really going to happen. What are they going to change next? Because as we go through the next two episodes, you're going to mention like Peter has a best friend and it's not Ned, it's a female. And also, I
Which was
love, love,
annoying.
love that first episode, the ending of the first episode, where they gave you those little signs in this teaser of the same scene of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, where he finds a DVD player, and then he goes and he finds this really cool, nice car, and then he goes upstairs and he says hi to Aunt May, and then you see Tony Stark, you see Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and that's how they meet together. But they did the exact same thing here, but he meets
Harry Osborn.
Harry Osborn. Well, not Norman Osborn. He meets
Not
Norman
out of
Osborn.
Norman. Sorry, Norman.
Yeah, so that was very cool little twists to things because you're expecting one thing, but then you see another. And I think also the other interesting thing is that they race swapped Norman Osborn, so that was an unexpected thing as well. Very interesting thing because that'll still just keep you on your toes on who's like you're still gonna think to yourself like, okay, this guy is not the same Norman Osborn that we're used to. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he somewhere in between? Like, what type of person is he going to portray? And the same thing with Harry Osborn, and they did a gender flip with the lizard as well, or not the lizard, but with Kurt Connors as well, which is now Krista or Kristen or something
Mm-hmm.
Connors, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this show's going to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, what I do like and what I can say is how they flip certain things how you expect for things to go, but they completely flip it. Harry Osborn, nope, not Harry, Norman Osborn. I like the gender. And here's the thing: it's not like we're flipping to just flip. It doesn't
Hmm.
get. I hate to say this. I really do hate to say this, but for those who are like, oh, it's gonna get woke because he's black man. It doesn't. They flip
It
him.
doesn't affect
It
anything.
just
It
doesn't
doesn't
affect
change a
anything.
thing.
It does that change who he is, his personality, who he really is, who he wants to be. It doesn't change his son. It's not like, well, I'm a black kid and I'm from the hood and now I made it. Nothing
Right.
like that. He's just black. He just exists because he's black. Just like you have the best friend who's like, she's Asian. Okay, and Danny, you're not I don't know a black man or a
I
purple
mean,
man.
yeah, me being Latino, me being Puerto Rican doesn't make me myself. So like, if you changed me into a black man, I would probably still be the same exact person, except maybe some
Same
minor
terrible person.
cultural changes.
He would still be so abusive and so mean to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it does not do that. And also, I just want to say because I will end up forgetting this that, and I love the fact that it's so easy. Let's just get the actors from the movie. Nope, they got different actors to reflect that this is an alternate universe. Doctor Strange, who looks like Clark Gable for some reason to me, is not voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. He is voiced by Atkin Downs. And
Hmm.
Tom Holland is not voicing Spider-Man. We all know who he's voiced by. That weird man. So you know what I mean? So I do like that. And I do like how they're, even the fact that, it's an interdimensional, yes, you could say it's exactly like Miles. So it's an interdimensional spider. And trust me, things, if you have questions, they will make sense in the end. This is not like, oh, and this happened, and then we never follow through. We will get a complete follow through from what happened in that very beginning to what happens in the very end and how every single thing connects. And it does a really great balance of here's season one. Well, here's the possibilities of season two without overwhelming you.
Hmm.
Stinking love this series. But kind of going
Hmm.
off with the very first episode, just love it so stinking much. Yeah, and then so also, sorry, it was a Venom. It was Venom.
Sorry, what?
So it was Venom. It was a Venom
Oh,
symbiote.
okay, okay.
So we got Spider-Man versus we got Spider-Man and Venom in the
On
same
the first
universe.
episode.
On the first episode, it already delivered on what Venom didn't do. And we don't talk about Carnage from that other movie,
Jeez.
from that movie. We don't talk about that. But the fact that, we already got Venom, we got Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange is not like, hey, boy, I'm going to take you under my wing. So that's kind of what I love about it. And it's nothing like, so, and also it is a magic element because Doctor Strange, that is how he gets his powers because of that whole dimension being open. Doctor Strange being like, oh, where am I? I don't know where I'm at. This isn't right. So that works. And we don't know why it isn't right. The question, we will get answers. That's all I can tease. So I did kind of like that aspect of it. And I like the fact that, Ned is not in this, or is he? But Ned is not Ned, or is he? We do have the best friend. So kind
For,
of
for,
jumping
for
off of
those for
that.
those who don't know, that Ned is the Hobgoblin in the comics, at least one version of him. So like, they could always introduce Ned in this universe and have him be a villain. That would be cool.
Yeah, that it could be very cool. And I do also kind of like the fact that they do show him balancing school and being Spider-Man. It is like, hey, I got to
Mm.
go to the bathroom. But the bathroom is, let's go stop these big robbers.
Yeah.
Or let's get the cat out
This
of the
is
tree
this is high
kind of
school, right?
versions.
Or is it middle school?
This is high, no, no.
High
This is
school?
high school. We are preparing
Okay.
for college now. It gives
I
you
just
middle
I didn't
school
pay I didn't I didn't pay well, kind of. I didn't pay any mind to the
vibes.
rest of it. But I could it's a little bit middle school vibe. And like I said, it's mostly because like the voice. It's like I just don't think it matches well with his Peter.
That's terrible. It gave you middle school vibes. It always gave me
No.
high school vibes. Maybe as it gets on, you'll be like, this feels like high school because these are some adult themes that's going on,
Mm.
and this person's too young to be doing that.
But
But
I
oh
guess yeah.
god,
Now that you mention it, because obviously he's got an internship in the second episode, so you wouldn't give an internship to a
yeah.
middle schooler. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, unless he's like one of those geniuses, 12-year-olds who graduated,
Yeah,
college already. He has a
yeah.
PhD at like 13. But he's not a savant. He's just really good at what he does. He likes science. Um, yeah, so we do have him kind of, balancing out being Spider-Man and going after bank robbers, and then him being in love with Pearl, him having a best friend, which whom I cannot stand. I can't stand her
Really?
with two cents because she's the kind of person where, say we're best friends. I want to see you successful, but I don't want your success to override my success.
Is that
That
what you
kind of
got?
thing.
Where'd you get that
I
from?
got. I just got her entire kind of like. You remember how they was talking about, hey, I have this internship,
Uh-huh. Oh
and
yeah, yeah. And she
yay, that's
expected him to
great.
still make time for her and go to the party and all that
And
stuff.
she expected him to make the time for her. Well, where are you? Where are you at?
Yeah.
He's like, I had an
Yeah. I
internship.
see. I can see that.
Oh, wait, who's your internship with? Oh, it's with, I'm working for the Oscorp. Oh, they're terrible people. Like, are
Yeah.
you happy about anything that for him? You know what I mean? It's like those kind of people where it's like, I'm happy for you, but are you really? But once they become successful, you want everybody to jump on the bandwagon and to treat you, give me all your full attention. But the man is at an internship. Where are you? Why are you not here? And remember when he said at the, what do you call it, the football event thing,
Hmm.
where he was like, okay, but I have to go because I'm going to be late. No, just watch the game.
Hmm.
That's so
She's
selfish.
a child. She don't know any better. They're all selfish. They don't understand that concept.
There's a difference between being a child and being immature. She is immature,
Mm.
and she's too old to be acting that way. Like she's not 7, where it's like, Dad, I miss you. Why are you never home?
Yeah.
This is like, hey, I'm gonna be successful. Oh, ew, you work for them. I can't stand her.
Maybe
And
maybe
for those
they'll.
of you,
Go ahead. Oh no, I was gonna say maybe
no,
they'll grow that character into her being very resentful and they don't become friends and she becomes a villain, kind of like Harry Osborn at some point.
I will tease this. She does have abandonment issues. So if you
Mm,
do put that into to play, it kind of you understand it, but at the same time, it's very annoying.
hmm.
Like it's an internship. He's not going to China and leaving you to fend for yourself. So I don't like that at all. But yeah, the whole fact that we have Lonnie, who is the football preferred, those you've read comic books, you've read the comics, you know that Lonnie ends up being Tombstone, just in general, because that's the comic book. They kept the same
Hmm.
name.
Hmm.
So what are your initial thoughts on the Lonnie character?
Um, I was very surprised that they did that as well because I was expecting it to be Flash Thompson. Like Flash Thompson was always like his bully, the football jock, the popular guy and stuff, and he gets involved in comics much later. But yeah, they didn't do that this time. So and that's another flip that they did. So not only is this guy supposed to play a villain, but now he's playing a very good friend of Peter's. He's a very popular person in school. So it's like Peter is doing well for himself right now. He's not like the loser
Mm.
nerdy guy. He's rubbing he's like shoulder to shoulder with like the popular people and the nerdy people, and he's having a good time, kind of like doing both. So it's kind of I really want to know like if they're gonna end up doing something with him turning into a villain, or possibly even turn into Tombstone and still be a hero in some way. Like they could
Who
always flip it that way as well.
can't answer that for you, but I will say this: the characters are very well fleshed out, and I
Mm.
did like the. I was very surprised because I'm kind of tired of like the bullying in high school. Oh, you math nerd. Oh, you science geek. It was like,
But it's
yay, you made
real. Like it
T,
still happens
you
to
got
this
a
day.
job. Yes, but I'm kind of. It's refreshing to see that in
Yeah, for
a
for
TV show.
Parker. Yeah.
Where everyone is just getting together and yay, I support you. Go run that football. I don't know anything about football, but I'm proud of you. And he's like, I don't know anything about science, but I know some things. I'm not dumb. And that's another thing. I do appreciate that
Smart.
they created the character. He's smart. He's not like, oh, I'm just a dumb jock.
Hmm.
He's smart. He knows things. And I do appreciate that from the show. So I do like their friendship. I like the whole, like the entire school just seems to be supportive You could argue it is kind of missing a little bit of that bullying mentality, even from someone to like say something snarky. Is it too happy? Is it too inclusive? Is it too woke?
That's probably the woke part of it all. There's not enough dark, like just everybody's miserable and yeah.
You black kid, what are you doing succeeding? Know your place, Negro. Yeah, so that kind of was, I was appreciative of that. And we do know that, kind of getting to Lonnie's storyline point, I was wondering, did you think that it was a stereo? Now, this is where I was kind of like, are we getting into stereotypes? Because we do say that he's hardworking, he's helping his brother with the house, but we get that transition of, yeah, man, I'm gonna go home, and then it completely changes neighborhood, where it's like, this is the poorer part of town. Wait, here comes the police officer following him with the light. I got angry. What were your thoughts? I got so angry.
I get the perception of that. I understand that part, but I think it makes him more admirable, honestly, for someone like him to be in that type of setting and still make it. Like he has the potential to make it. Like he could be freaking Harvard graduate in the future or Yale graduate or whatever because he's incredibly smart, he's incredibly athletic, and he still helps his family out. Like I think it's a good part of him to show as character development. So yeah, it is stereotypical. It absolutely is. And I was also very much bothered in a good way, but like I was very much bothered by how he's walking down the street and you see that cop car slowly passing by and you're just like, oh crap, like what's going to happen here? Is this the type of image that they're trying to pass on right now? And yeah, that's but it's real. It really happens. So like I appreciate that part of it to kind of make things a little bit more real, a little bit more down to earth. That's like you mentioned, like it's all just happiness. It's all just like really good. This wasn't a very happy moment. This wasn't a very good moment. This is a very dark moment because it could have gone so many ways and as it would in real life. So I liked it. I liked that part of it. And I think it did well for his character.
Yeah, so yeah, I kind of struggled with this because it's like,
Hmm.
oh, the black kid.
Hmm.
Well, I'm have a financial struggle. Everyone's poor. Oh, look, here comes the police because he's black. And it was like, we can't even escape this in cartoons. What is going on?
But
Why
then
can't he
again,
live just like Lonnie? Yeah.
to be fair, though, one, Peter Parker, white boy, he's just as poor, but also Norman Osborn, now a black man, very rich and successful and powerful. So you're getting a little bit of both.
Right. So I was going to say, at the same time, it is realistic,
Hmm.
and they're showing him of what he is, what his character is. You are not where you're from. You're not your circumstances.
Right,
So it does
right,
show he's extremely successful. He's very smart. Everyone gets along with him. He loves everyone, it seems. He's helpful with his family. They just happen to not have as much money as everyone else. And you do show that dynamic of there's rich people, there's poor people, there's rich black people, there's poor white people, there's poor everything and rich everything. So I do like that kind of way how they showed Lonnie. And then you look at Harry Osborn, and he's like the complete opposite in terms of financials. So I do like that, and it was like it's human. So it's like we can't erase what is really out there. So I do like that embrace and appreciation. The thing that I'm trying not to say is I wonder how that carries out throughout the season and the environmental differences that ends up being portrayed and whether or not that ends up being a stereotype. And then again, my struggle with it may be a stereotype, but it's also these are people's lives, and this is very true to people who live those lives. So yeah, I did. Like I said, I had problems with it, but I kind of got to talk myself out of those problems. So you we see, him balancing between, and then you get that kind of scene of Civil War, and you did talk about the DVD player. So overall, for episode one, your first impressions, would you continue with this series just on your own?
Yeah,
Obviously, you
yeah,
did, but
absolutely.
you
Like
know,
there's lots that I don't like about it, but like I said, I think there's plenty of stuff that the show does right for me to continue watching it. I liked it.
right,
I like the cliffhangers it leaves you in, and the changes that they're making because it makes it a fresh, brand new show, and I like the characters.
right. And for me, I kind of did like, how they did flip things. And also, this is the street level Spider-Man. He's not fighting, well, aside from what happens with the Strange situation, but he's technically not in space. So he's not in space. He's not out there with Tony Stark and them, where it's like, here's all of these different, gadgets and gizzards and things. So I did like that. It was a very street based, and everything came across as very realistic. These are regular people with regular lives, of regular school. And I did like that aspect, and I liked, how that was portrayed. So for episode one, I was curious enough to continue with it. So, yay. So kind of moving on from that, episode two, we after the whole introduction to Mr. Norman Osborn, which is originally played by the Tony Stark character, and that flip and maybe like, look who's here. Were you excited for that dynamic to see how that would play out?
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more of that he was gonna play the Tony Stark mentor type. Not so much they showed that. Like it seems like Peter really wants to like be around Norman and kind of like pick his brain on things and kind of like he looks up to him clearly. But Norman was very much unavailable for most of that show because he's a difficult man to get a hold of. So he spent most of his time in the lab and trying to prove himself to this that other stupid, dumb like little short man scientist dude that was being an ass to him. Um,
Ugh.
yeah, so uh, you didn't get to really see that dynamic, but I'm expecting more of that in the future or episodes. Again, cliffhangers are very great, and this cliffhanger was actually very interesting. It's only the second episode in, and we're already finding out spoilers. Norman knows he's Spider-Man. Like, what the hell? Like so soon, so quickly already. And I'm wondering now: did he already know when he invited him for the internship, or did he just now find out?
I cannot answer that on the public forum. But I do like the fact that it got straight to the point,
hmm
and it wasn't like, hey, I'm interested in you, kid, because you seem really smart. Because if you look at what's going on in the lab, everyone's really smart.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
it's like,
ooh,
what is it? Yeah.
and they got Amadeus Cho. That had me very, very excited. So Amadeus Cho is a character that one of the laboratory guys that Peter interns with, and Amadeus Cho is one of the new Hulks in the comic series. He's a Korean Hulk, pretty much, and I like him a lot. So I'm really excited for hopefully they do something for him in like season 2 or 3, and he turns into the Hulk.
That seems to be really exciting. What for me, what really stood out was that we got a Wakandan. So I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
we got a, I was like, look at that. The whole world is coming together, even
yeah.
though it's a different universe. So I really like that part. And we get the different dynamics of the classroom. And we get her because she's just so positive, but you could tell that she's a little bit like whatever judgment she has, she's gonna keep it to herself, but she has some judgment. But I
hmm
just wanted to be like, and what's going on in Wakanda? What part are we at now? Did they invade yet? What's going on? But they didn't touch upon that. So I was just looking forward. I was like, how's Shuri? So I was like wondering, is she like she would be an alternate version of Shuri? Maybe, maybe not. I don't
And we don't
know.
even know. We don't know if even if T'Challa exists in this universe.
That is true. But there is one thing that also showed a difference. This Spider-Man was born February 18th, 2010, instead of the what was it? Peter, the other Peter, MCU Peter, he is 2001. So
Oh,
there's a 9-year difference on that Peter. So that means that it takes place more around 2004, 2005. So the events that occurred many years ago are now occurring in this multiverse.
hmm
if anyone's kind of into multiverse information, there you have that there. So that seems to be interesting. And so yes, so we have Asha, who is the Wakandan student. Um, she has the power to reflect and absorb light. She is from the actual comic. Then, as you mentioned, Amadeus Cho, which you're very excited for. He is the son of Dr. Helen Chow, who appeared in Age of Ultron.
Oh.
So we have that version. And as you also mentioned, the Hulk, his version is called the Totally Awesome Hulk,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
one that you like, the Korean Hulk. And then we have Jean, who's a Long Island native, and she's original. She's not anything that's connected with anything. She's just a regular old human. And then you have, of course, Dr. Bentley Whitman, who's just terrible, just overall terrible. But he is the wizard in the comics.
Oh, that did not click whatsoever.
Yeah, yep, he is the supervillain, the wizard. So that is who he ends up becoming. So there's some Easter eggs there, and then even though so we have that Peter, he loses the position that he originally wanted, but he ends up under Dr. Kurt Connors instead. So that is I think that's slightly different there with the changes. So that seems exciting. And instead of all of the working with lizards for regenerative cures, she instead wants to do renewable clean energy. Because they're woke. Sorry, funny. But yeah, so she ends up kind of working with him in that aspect, and then we kind of slowly, even though what's his face, Norman is not really there. We know that he's there in terms of surveillance and looking.
Yeah.
So that's how he was able to put. He's always watching. So that's how he was probably able to put together. That's how he was able to put together that he was Peter Parker. So Peter Parker thought he was just doing his diddly dads by himself, which, by the way, no photography. Even though there is a camera involved in a couple scenes. Yeah. So that's how he's discovered. So he's not very good at being stealth, especially when you're on IG Live.
He's inexperienced.
He's inexperienced. See, this is the thing of being young as opposed to being immature.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, what was your thoughts on the arsonist? He was trying to stop the building from burning down.
That was a funny moment. It was some good action. It was a funny moment between the both of them fighting and stuff, and then Peter trying to run around saving the animals. So it kind of again character development. It just shows how much he cares for everyone, even the little creatures and stuff. So that was a funny moment, and then he tried not to hurt him so much, so he was apologizing about that as well for hurting him too much. So go ahead.
It gave me Firefly vibes.
Yeah.
Did you get any vibes?
Yeah,
see,
definitely.
The multiverse is crossing.
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, Nico. Again, this is where I can't stand Nico. Was he wrong or right? Was Nico in the right for being upset that he never made it to the party? Obviously, he can't tell her, "Hey, dude, I'm Spider-Man."
So out of my own experience, I would say like I understand the way she feels. When you got a best friend that was always there, for your beck and call, like, never had a problem showing up to everything and always together and stuff like that. I get that. And then when you get older and things change, you kind of realize, oh my God, they have another life aside from me. Like, no, that can't happen. Like, it's supposed to be me and him. Like, it's supposed to be us. So I get that feeling, especially at the ages that they're in now. So in a sense, yes, I it's justified. I get it. I just hope she matures from that rather than go into the dark side and ends up resenting him or being stupid and starts becoming a bully or something like that. That's what I hope doesn't happen.
I want to say so much that I can't. But one of the things that I was wondering, because he does reveal that, hey, I've figured this out for a little while, that you is Peter Parker. Do you think that he was testing him when it came to Dr. Bhutan, who was the DC Firefly?
I didn't get that,
Could
but
be
that actually
that.
makes sense. Now that you mention it, yes, it could be. I didn't think that at all, but yeah, very possible because I don't know if he knew before or after everything that had happened.
Yeah, because it could kind of made me wonder because the guy kind of like came around. Obviously, everything is kind of random, and then he burned down the wrong building. So it was proof that he
Yeah,
had instructions to do it. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to just do it on my own. He was hired to
that's
do it.
true.
So it's like,
Very true.
who hired him? Why did he hire him? Was he testing Spider-Man and his ability to see what he can and cannot do? And if he failed, was he purposely, was he like okay with possibly killing someone?
I didn't even think about
Like, like he could have died. It
that.
is fire at the end of the day. So then you have that kind of situation that's happening. And then it was like, to me, he just kept lying. Norman was just a lie. He's like, oh, I'll show you around town. And I was really expecting that Tony Stark, you immediately work under my wings kind of feel. And he just
Mhm.
basically abandoned him. Remember Tony, not Tony, Peter was like, yeah, I'm Mr. Stark wants to see me. And he never
Mhm.
came. Like, what a bum to do that. That was the selling point. For me, it was
Mhm.
like, hey, I'll be your mentor. And so do you feel that he can trust him? Can he trust him or is he just busy? Because he
Well, if it
does run
turns
a
out
whole
that it's
corporation.
yeah, I mean, but so did Tony. But since you made a good point about him possibly being tested by throwing that Firefly dude, you know, um, to test Spider-Man, if as I think us as the audience, no, I don't think we should trust him. I think Spider-Man has no reason not to trust him because he hasn't given them that reason yet, or Peter Parker, I should say. Will probably
Hmm.
fully trust Norman Osborn, especially because he looks up to him. So I think we're gonna get that conflict of just like him um, being conflicted about whether he should trust him versus the guy that he looks up to because he clearly looks up to him and he wants to be someone like him. Not just the rich and powerful so but because he's such a brilliant mind. He's just he's a genius, so he wants to be a genius just like him. So I I no, I would tell him don't trust him because but we know better as the audience, not him.
Yeah, no, my thing is that Peter to me seems to be so trustworthy. And you're young, you're trustworthy, you believe everything. And then or Norman has been around the block for a while, and we don't know why exactly does he care so much about some kid or clearly some inexperienced person dressing up as a vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
Is why do you have interest in it? It's not like he is some alien from another universe. This is clearly a human, as what you even stated. With web slingers or shooters or whatever you're going to call it, that he built. So it's not like, oh, it's coming out of him. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and that wasn't even a spider. It was Doctor Strange's universe's spider. So it wasn't even like, oh, I've been there and I've watched the spider drop and fall into you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just there's too many questions about him that I just simply don't trust yet. And I just don't like the fact that
Yeah.
he was like, I'm going to show you around. And he never did. He's a liar. Boo. So, overall impressions of episode 2.
It's better. Like it just progresses and gets better. So I really like what they're doing right now. I don't care about this woke stuff. Like you need to change things around in order to make things fresh. It's stupid that people just throw that word in because at this point it's a meaningless word. People anything that changes with your content and people think that it's woke. It's not woke. Like it's you got to change things up or else it's the same stale story over and over and over again. Like you have to the only time I would ever complain about like a gender swap or a race swap is if that particular thing is a part of that character, an important part of that character. Like for example, people's like, oh, let's just race swap T'Challa because he needs to be a white man now. I'm like, no, because him being black in this country is an important part of his identity. You don't do that the way you can just race swap anybody else. That doesn't make sense at all. That's a part of his identity and his culture. This no, your argument does not work that way. So like
Uh,
It's got to be an important part of them, and when you change an important part of them, that's when I have a problem
so what you're
with
saying is you don't want Scarlett Johansson to be T'Challa.
it. So no, I want her to be Charles Xavier.
Um, yeah, no, I kind of completely agree. And kind of without saying things without saying, we get a very deeper story. And as I stated before, there are characters and they will all have motives and it's very well fleshed out. So that is something that I did appreciate with this. It felt like there was time and energy put into the script where it wasn't like, here's these characters and things they're never mentioned again. So I did like that. And I like the fact that we're getting all of these different people. I initially thought when they announced it, we're gonna get Spider-Man, and follow him on his journey. To me, it feels like Spider-Man and his amazing friends, because it ends up becoming like this community feel that we end up following, where it is, we're not just following Spider-Man, we're following Lonnie, we're following Harry Osborn, we're following his son, his father, Norman Osborn, and we're gonna get to see that relationship between the two characters, and we'll get to see how everyone interacts with Peter Parker. So I do like that. And then we get backstories as well. So again, it feels like a very well fleshed out neighborhood that we're walking into and we just get everyone's lives. So that's kind of what I loved about it. And again, it still has that very down to earth, I'm a street hero vigilante feel to it, where it doesn't get too fancy, but it is raising a lot of questions. And I'm trying to figure out, well, I already know, but you do try to figure out why is there so much interest in this kid? Because it's not like you're this genius kid. You see that there are people who are working all in Oscorp, who are geniuses, who, in their own respective field that we're introduced to. And I'm kind of also wondering that in the comic book, we know who they are going to become. And I felt that it was very intentional on the writers, where it wasn't like, you take a character like, say, for example, Tombstone, and you give him the name Craig instead of Lonnie. You can easily Google who these people are. You know, oh, that's the wizard. That ends up becoming, I don't know, Billy Bob. So to me, it's like this is what you know and love, but let's flip it and give it a different perspective. And that is why I love this series so much. And it's, $2 costume, as you like to call it. And it's weird voice acting that you like to say as Peter Parker. He sucks as Peter
It's not
Parker.
weird voice acting. It's not the voice acting. It's just the voice. There's a difference with that too. The voice is not matched for me. I'm sure I'll get used to it. It'll eventually all blend in, and I'll be fine with it. But like those first two episodes, I was like, that sounds very, very different.
But yeah, hopefully it does change because it is 10 episodes, so you'll get acclimated to the
Yeah.
different voices. But I do look forward to another episode. Obviously, you do as well because you're like, oh my god, Spider-Man is the greatest show I've ever seen. But I'm not going to say
Spider-Man is one
that
of my
when we're on
favorites.
air.
Spider-Man is one of my favorites.
So then, do you feel that it is an equal, not better than, but could be an equal to X-Men '97?
No. And that's
Oh.
mostly because I feel like this show is more geared for kids. At least from what I'm seeing so far, it's more geared for kids. X-Men is very much more adult. It's more adult themes. It's more adult centric. It's more adult stories. I feel like this one is more for the teens and for the kids out there. From what I'm seeing so far, so I still say X-Men '97 is far better so far.
Oh, I completely understand that. And plus, we don't see as many nude X-Men or nude people just dressed in their underwear with really extreme close shots of body parts. So
Yeah,
I will say that. And yes, it is more of an adult theme because those are all adults. And we are following high school students. So yeah, you get that. They are made for two different people. But
hmm
even for a teenage or junior show, it does have a good feel to it. It's not
hmm
like it's completely downgraded where it's like, oh no, this is just for the kids. It
hmm
does feel like it can balance and get the attention of adults and kids at the same time. So
I agree.
I do appreciate that aspect from it so far. So we will talk about other episodes as they come on down the pipeline. Of course, I've seen everything, so there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to seeing that there are there are reactions where you're like, I need the opinions of other people. So I'm just suffering here in silence. So I look forward to those other episodes dropping. So once again, I have been Dana, and I'm joined by Mr. Danny Martinez, who hates the voice of Spider-Man. So have a great day, afternoon, weekend, and we will see you later.